You may think a book titled Confessions of a Football Chaplain might be a rather sensational book which would challenge the notion of chaplaincy within the community of sport. But this is the new book from the Scottish Director for Sports Chaplaincy UK, Rev Mark Fleming. Mark became chaplain to Partick Thistle Football Club in 1998, and after 9 years began gradually to source, train and appoint chaplains at the other Scottish football clubs, and continued with that work in his role as Scottish Director. To share more about his journey with Christ, we're now joined by Rev Mark Fleming from Sports Chaplaincy UK and Director of Scotland. Rev Mark, thanks so much for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Cyrus. So nice to see you.
Could you kindly just tell us about your journey of faith and where it all began?
Yeah, well, I grew up as an atheist, to be honest. So from an early age, I had no connection with church. In fact, I wasn't even allowed to join the Boys Brigade because my dad considered it to have some religious connection. So from an early age, I had absolutely nothing to do with church or any other religion. And actually, my nickname in my 5th year in secondary school was the Antichrist, because I was quite antagonistic towards those that I thought of as the God Squad. So yeah, I didn't have a very auspicious beginning in terms of being a Christian, but it was when one of my best friends was converted that I saw such an incredible change in his life that I began to investigate for myself.
Now, Reverend Mark, give us an insight into Sports Chaplaincy UK and also you becoming a football chaplain. How did you get involved?
It was really during a time of crisis at Partick Thistle Football Club. The club had some severe financial problems, and the manager at the time felt he was more like a social worker or a counsellor than he was a football coach. And for him, all he wanted to do was focus on getting 11 players out on that pitch and getting 3 points on a Saturday. That was it. He didn't have time or the ability to cope with all the issues and the problems that the players had. So essentially, I was brought in to be a listening ear, a sounding board, a confidant, a friend to everybody at the club. And so I was essentially pastorally proactive in the sense that I would look out for the players and other staff as well in terms of all the kind of pastoral issues in their lives, in terms of their mental, emotional well-being.
Just give us an insight on what it was like working with those players and some of the testimonies, because I can imagine some of these players must be playing under so much pressure, and for them to be witnessed to like you did and talk to them about Jesus Christ, did that relieve some of their pressure, and also did their performance improve?
Yeah, for me as a chaplain, it's about seeing past the player and seeing the person. So my role would not be performance-based, whereas everybody else at the club has an angle, has an agenda, and that is to get a performance out of the player on that pitch. For me, it was more about how was his performance off the pitch, how was his life away from the pitch. It was more about how is his family, how are everything that can actually have an impact on his performance, but actually stands alone in and of itself is something really important. And what I tried to do was that in the world of professional football, it's a ruthless and brutal environment, and the value system is very much around, your performance and results. So that's how you're valued. Whereas God's value system is very different. God's value system is based on his grace, and he doesn't depend on our religious performance or spiritual results for him to love us or take an interest in us.
And finally, if anyone's watching us today, maybe they're hearing about Jesus Christ for the very first time, or maybe they're struggling with their faith, what would you say to them? What advice would you give to them?
I think for me, the world in which I work, professional football, the identity of people and their sense of significance is very much wrapped up in the football shirt that they wear. Take that off them, they don't know who they are, they don't know why they're here, they don't know what they're doing. What I found is that being able to model the fact that my identity is in Christ, that I'm worth so much to God, that when God looks at me, he sees me having the same value as his very own son, Jesus. And also that he has designed me for a purpose that goes far beyond what I do by way of my profession, like football. But he values me way more than that. And my significance is wrapped up in who I am to God, who I am in Christ, and the fact that I actually get to join God in what He's doing in this world gives me such a purpose in life. And so for me, value, significance and purpose are three of the things that God has given me in abundance through knowing Jesus.
Just want to say, Rev Mark Fleming from Sports Chaplaincy UK and National Director for Scotland, thank you so much indeed for joining us. God bless you.
Thank you, Cyrus. Lovely to speak to you. God bless.